the illusion of control. Why letting go unlocks everything you're chasing. When I first heard Alan Watts speak, I didn't understand what I was listening to. His voice was calm, poetic, almost playful, but the words were dangerous. Not in a violent way, in a liberating way. It felt like someone had taken a needle and gently pierced the illusion I had been living in. Because what Watts discovered and what he tried to show us is not some intellectual theory you debate in a philosophy class. It's a felt experience. It's a realization so simple, so obvious, that your mind will try to reject it. But once you see it, once it hits you not just in your head but in your bones, nothing is ever the same. Alan Watts discovered that life is not a problem to be solved. It's not a puzzle to be figured out. It's a dance. A play. A game that we are already in, already part of, already flowing with. But we've forgotten that we're players. We've become spectators of our own existence. And in our obsession to make sense of it all, to control it, to win at it, we've strangled the very thing we were meant to enjoy. He said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. That's it. That's the core of the illusion. You are not something separate from life, trying to fix it. You are life. You're not the wave trying to master the ocean. You are the ocean momentarily expressing itself as a wave.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
But here's the tragedy. Most of us don't see that. We're so busy trying to find ourselves or figure out our purpose that we never stop to realize we're already it. Right now. In this breath, in this thought, in this moment of you watching this video, the mind will say, that's too easy. That can't be it. But that's the game. The ego wants complexity because it thrives in confusion. It wants to chase things it can never catch. It wants to become something that looks like peace, but it will never be peace itself. Watts didn't just read books. He sat in silence. He studied Zen. He tasted what it means to disappear into the present moment, where there's no you left, just the experience of now. And that's what most people miss. Because they're too busy thinking about life instead of living it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever truly let go? I don't mean giving up. I mean surrendered. Dropped the constant mental grip on everything, your future, your identity, your plans, your regrets, and just melted into the moment? Most people never do. Because we're trained to believe that control is safety, that the tighter we hold on, the better life will go. But Watts showed us the opposite is true. The tighter you hold, the more life slips through your fingers, like trying to grasp water with a clenched fist. The moment you loosen your grip, the water stays. The moment you surrender, peace enters. Not because you earned it, but because you stopped resisting it. He used to say, the meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. And when you hear that, you might think he's telling you to do nothing, but that's not it. He's not saying life is passive. He's saying it's participatory. It's like music. You don't listen to music just to get to the end of the song. You enjoy it as it plays. You dance to it. You feel it. You let it move you. So why don't we live like that? Why are we always rushing to the next verse, the next chorus, the next goal, the next identity? Because we've been hypnotized by the belief that life is a ladder, and we're always one step away from finally being enough. That's what Alan Watts shattered for me. The idea that I had to arrive somewhere to be free, that I had to fix myself, find my path, stay productive, get better, become more spiritual, more disciplined, more enlightened. But what if enlightenment isn't something you achieve? What if it's what remains when you stop trying to achieve anything at all? What if the moment you stop trying to become, you start to be? That's the paradox. And that's why it's so hard for the mind to grasp. Because the mind wants a destination. But life is not a destination. It's a process, a flow, a happening. And you are the happening itself. You're not a thing in the universe. You are the universe, aware of itself, momentarily dreaming that it's separate. Do you realize what that means? It means you've never been lost. Not really. It means all the searching was part of the path, even the parts that felt like confusion, like heartbreak, like failure. Nothing was wasted, because the whole time, life was trying to bring you back to this breath, this stillness, this moment of awareness where you can finally hear the silence beneath the noise. That's what Watts discovered. And he didn't just discover it intellectually. He lived it. He laughed with it. He drank with it. He danced with it. He cried with it. He let life touch him fully because he knew there was nowhere to hide, nothing to escape. Everything was already it. Even the pain, even the doubt, even the fear, all of it expressions of the same one dance. So here's the question I want to leave you with for now. What would your life feel like if you stopped trying to control it and started dancing with it instead? Not in theory, not as a spiritual idea, but as a daily reality. Wake up, breathe, feel, move with the moment. Trust the unfolding. Could you do that? Could you let go of your grip just enough to see that the thing you've been chasing might already be right here, waiting for you to open your hands? The disappearance of the self. Why you're not who you think you are. One of the most radical things Alan Watts ever said was this: you are an illusion and you don't even know it. Now, when most people hear that, they either laugh or they get defensive. What do you mean I'm an illusion? I know who I am. I have a name, a job, a history, a body, a personality. But Watts wasn't denying your experience. He was pointing out something far deeper. He was pointing to the fact that the self you believe you are, the voice in your head, the image you project, the story you've been telling yourself all your life, isn't actually you. It's a process, a pattern, a bundle of thoughts, beliefs, and memories that's constantly changing. And the real you, the one that's aware of all of that, isn't a thing at all. It's not something you can point to. It's not an object. It's awareness itself. You see, the ego, the psychological self, is a useful tool, but it's not your essence. It's like a mask you wear on life's stage. It helps you navigate roles and relationships, but it's not the actor behind the mask. Alan Watts often compared it to the front of a ship. If you look at the bow of a moving ship, it seems like it's cutting through the water, leading the way. But in reality, it's being pushed forward by everything behind it. In the same way, we think our self is in control, making all the decisions, directing the journey. But what if it's just the visible tip of a vast process that's mostly unconscious, mostly environmental, and mostly mysterious? What if the I you think you are is just a ripple on the surface of a deep and ancient ocean? Watts said that the belief in a fixed, separate self is the root of our suffering. Why? Because once you believe you are a separate, independent ego, then life becomes a constant struggle to protect it, defend it, enhance it, prove it, and eventually save it from death. But when you see through the illusion, when you realize that the self is not a noun but a verb, not a thing but a process, then something incredible happens. You stop taking things so personally. You stop clinging so tightly. You begin to flow. You become like water, adapting, responding, but never needing to hold on. And that's the freedom most people never find, because they're still trying to be someone instead of realizing they already are everything. This is where the spiritual path gets real. It's not about becoming better at being you. It's about seeing that you was never who you thought it was. You're not your name. You're not your story. You're not your trauma, your goals, your failures, or even your thoughts. You are the witness of all of that. The awareness that watches thought come and go. The presence that was there before you had language, before you built an identity, before the world told you who you were supposed to be. And when you return to that original awareness, pure, silent, unconditioned, you don't become less. You become limitless. Because the boundaries that defined you dissolve, you start to feel connected to everything. Not in a poetic way, but in a literal, experiential, undeniable way. So let me ask you something that most people never dare to ask themselves. Who are you when you stop being you? Not in theory, not as a fun thought experiment. I mean really. When the identity drops, when the thoughts quiet, when the roles fall away, what's left? What remains when there's no effort to be anything, prove anything, or fix anything? That's the space Alan Watts was pointing to. That's the place most people never explore, because it terrifies the ego. But that space, that silence, that presence, that's where life lives. That's where freedom begins. That's where you remember not who you are, but what you are. And what you are is far too vast, too mysterious, too beautiful to ever fit inside a name, a role, or a thought. The cosmic game, why everything you fear is actually part of the play. There's a moment in Alan Watts' lectures where he leans in, almost whispering, and says something that sounds insane unless you've tasted it. You are playing a game. You just forgot that you were the one who set the rules. At first, it sounds like a metaphor, but it's not. He meant it literally. He believed that life, this whole thing we're tangled up in, with its beauty and terror, its births and deaths, its pain and joy, is not a trap, not a mistake, not a punishment. It's a cosmic play, and we are the actors, the audience, the stage, and even the playwright. But we've forgotten. We've gotten so deep into the role, so lost in the character we're playing, that we believe the drama is real. We believe we're victims of fate, of randomness, of something out there. But what if there's nothing out there? What if the whole show is you? Wearing masks, changing costumes, experiencing every possible storyline just to remember what it means to be alive. Watts said, the whole point of dancing is the dance. You don't dance to get somewhere. You dance because it feels alive. And in the same way, you don't live to arrive at some final destination where everything is perfect and complete. You live to live. You feel to feel. You cry because that's part of the range of being human. You suffer because it deepens the mystery. You laugh because your soul recognizes itself in the absurdity of it all. But most of us are stuck in this idea that life is a problem to solve, that we need to eliminate all suffering, all uncertainty, all messiness. And in doing so, we flatten the experience. We numb the edges. We try to turn a jazz improvisation into a spreadsheet, and it kills the music. Here's the radical insight Alan Watts offered. What if even the things you fear most, failure, rejection, death, are part of the play you chose to experience? Not because you're meant to suffer, but because you're meant to wake up through them. What if pain isn't punishment, but a portal? What if uncertainty isn't something to conquer, but something to dance with? What if the entire structure of life wasn't designed for certainty, but for exploration? Watts compared life to hide and seek. He said, you are it, but the whole fun is that you don't know it. And when you finally remember, when you see through the veil, you don't escape the game, you just start playing it with joy instead of fear, presence instead of pressure, wonder instead of worry. This is why Alan Watts remained so powerful. He didn't ask you to escape the world. He asked you to re-enter it with new eyes, not to transcend your humanity, but to embrace it so fully that the divine shines through every crack. He wasn't interested in gurus or dogmas or rigid systems. He was interested in freedom, not the kind you achieve through discipline or control, but the kind that arises when you realize there was never anything to be afraid of to begin with, because you were never separate, you were never alone, and you were never supposed to get it all right. You were just supposed to experience it fully, with all the colors, all the noise, all the stillness, all the wild, sacred mess of being alive in a universe that is, in truth, you playing with yourself. So I'll leave you with one final life-shaking question. If you knew this was all a divine play, crafted by you for you, how would you live differently? Would you still hold back? Would you still be afraid to fail? Would you still need to prove yourself to people who are just other versions of you in costume? Or would you laugh more? Create more? Forgive more? Would you let go of control? Not because you gave up, but because you finally remembered that the river was always carrying you exactly where you needed to go? That's the gift Alan Watts left us. Not a set of answers, but a deeper question. What are you, really? And once you stop pretending to be anything else, what kind of life could you finally live?